I freaking love you so much.
Yeah, I love you too. And it's just, I just continue to be in awe of who you are, PJ. And on this note, I just want to say it's so cool that we're allowing our communities to kind of like tune in because it's not just a regular catch up conversation. I just want to hear like what is moving through you, what is the more courageous, deeper message that you're tapping into, how you experience divine lately, how you experience love, leadership. And yeah, I can read your bio. Your bio is like beyond impressive. But what I want to say to everybody who's going to listen, PJ is a role model and see us because we also have the video version. Because PJ, you're an inspiration of a being who lives life with this wild abandon, like I see you like diving into life and into every fabric of it, and you're really, to me, you live your life in a very bhakti way, like you are a devotional field. And I just want to, I want to share the vibration of your heart and of your embodiment in this conversation. And your bio is freaking impressive. You're amazing, amazing leader. When you spoke to my mastermind, you blew everybody's socks off. And people were like, can we have PG come back? Can we it's I was like, it was like students, teacher, can we have PJ come back? So not only you're a phenomenal world-class speaker, you just lead with so much of the heart that the speakers get moved and altered. And on this note, I just want to say thank you for sharing this time with me on this video audio podcast. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here. And I love that you said that I live a devotional life, right? With that wild abandon, because I've always just wanted to live. I was only expected to live until I was 7 years old. And like, I've outlived in 1 week from now, I've outlived that 45 years, and I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, I want to live like another 100 years. And they're like, oh, that's crazy talk. Why would you want to do that? What about when you get in your 70s? People will start to break down. I'm like, that's 20 years away. You don't think we're going to advance in medicine and technology by then? Come on, like there's so much to experience. There's so many things to see and smell and taste and do, and the challenges to be met and adventures to be had. I just heard that La Miradora in Guatemala, they've just found a city that's larger than LA. Found
What?
a Mayan city that's larger than LA, current LA. It's huge. I want to see that stuff. I haven't been to the Great Wall of China yet. I got to see that. I haven't been to Africa yet. I need to go there. There's still so much to see, so much to do, so much to experience. And I've been fortunate enough to continue to be able to live longer and longer and longer and drink it all in. And so I'm grateful that um, I've had the chance to make friends with you. And I'm honored that you'd reference me with that bhakti energy. That's really humbling and exciting. And also, there's that little piece of it where you go, oh, maybe I got to live a little bit better even still, right?
Yeah.
So it's that level of you just leveled me up. You know what I mean? You just called me out and said, "Ooh, you can be even better." And I'm like, "Yes, that 1%, right? Isn't that what you talk about? I talk about that too all the time. The 1% every day, every day, every day.
1% better. 1%. Like your love for life is so is just igniting. It's igniting every time you and I connect. I was like, I feel so ignited. And
Mm.
it's what you choose to cultivate on a daily basis. My question is, PJ, tell me the moment where your heart got cracked open for the beloved, for that great, great, great beloved, the spirit, the eternal friend, God, Goddess, source consciousness. Take me there. Take me to the moment where you experience as a direct revelation of the passionate kiss of the divine.
Hmm. So you're asking a really deep question because there are a couple of right, and these are the only questions to ask, right?
Right.
And so the thing is that my whole life has been spiritually based.
Mm,
So let me tell you this story that I think begins to touch on what you're asking. I was reading a book on world religions one day, and I'd gotten to the part on Zoroastrianism for whatever
mm,
reason, right? And all of a sudden I had a vision, like there was a flash, like you see in movies where like there's a clap and I was gone, and I was no longer in my room. I was no longer holding the book. I had just woken up. I was experiencing creation, and I had just woken up. And as I had woken up in the vision, I realized that in front of me and all around me were all of these souls that hadn't woken up yet. And I had just woken up, and no one else around me was awake yet. We were all sliding into towards this abyss, and it was terrifying. But what was worse is that I reached out to hold as many of these souls back as I possibly could. And when you're in sort of the spirit world, there's no understanding of distance. So I was able to reach out quite a ways to hold these things back so they didn't slip in further towards the abyss, because I didn't really know what was going on. All I knew is that they weren't awake yet, like I was, and I just wanted to keep them as safe as I could. And I was already operating with love, right? In that moment, the first act that I had was the act of love. But here's where it becomes interesting, um, is that it felt like, when a bumblebee stings someone, there's a barb on the back of it, and it sort of rips out its guts, and so the bumblebee dies. It's its last act, really, before it dies. Um, it felt like we had been ripped from the bosom of God, and it felt like our souls had been ripped out. Not ripped out, but it felt as if we had been ripped out from the connection with the divine. And even in that moment, all I had was love for these other souls, love for God, desire to return, and I couldn't articulate it. I didn't know what was going on. I had just woken up. Everything was primal love, right? Primal love, like just doing everything I could to protect and doing everything I could to return.
mm,
That, I would say, was my first really profoundly life altering experience. I was gone for about 3.5 hours. Yeah. And when I woke up, I wasn't in my bedroom anymore. I was in my closet with a blanket wrapped around me, rocking. And I woke up hearing myself say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I heard myself saying that. And as I was doing it, I started to wake from that. And there aren't words. I mean, it changes you when you feel that it wasn't even the visuals. I say it was terrifying to think that we were slipping into this abyss, but that wasn't the feeling. Those are just human words that I say to explain, like, I don't know what's going on, right? So I didn't feel the terror. I felt the love and the desire and the feeling of being ripped from the breast of God. That's what I felt. So that was pretty profound for me. And then when I moved to Arizona in 1997, October of 1997, I moved out here to study with my spiritual teacher. And she said, go home tonight and pray and ask God what he wants you to do with your life. And I said, okay. And so, and she said, and then just listen. So I sat down and I said, okay, God, I moved to Tucson. What do you want me to do with my life? And then I just got profoundly still, like instant meditation, right? Like immediately I just opened up, and this beam of light, this pillar of golden light came through the ceiling, hit me in the top of the head, filled up my entire body. And I heard one word: love. And in that moment, I knew that it didn't matter what I did as long as I loved. And then can I get one more piece? Okay, okay. And so then, okay. And then and the reason I want to tell one more piece is because this links to it. Um, about 5 or 6 months later, I was hit by an SUV, tossed out into 3 lanes of traffic, and I saw this coming. For 3 months, I'd been having this vision of being hit by a, a car at a bus stop. Well, I had literally just walked by a bus stop, looked in an SUV on my left hand side. In fact, I'm in a hotel right now. I can see the corner right where I was hit. Like I can literally see where I was tossed out into traffic right now. And
Chills.
yeah, I've been here for like 6 months in this hotel. So every day I see where I got hit. Um, and so I saw the SUV and I looked at oncoming traffic, 3 lanes of traffic, and there's no place for this SUV to come out. I didn't think. And so I run out in front of him. He guns it, hits me on my left side, tosses me out into 3 lanes of traffic. I tuck and I roll. And as I'm flying through the air, I say, God, please, whatever you do, don't let him roll over my pelvis. I hear the wheelchair while I'm in the air. I hear my wheelchair crushing under the front of his SUV. And when I stopped and rolled, when I landed on the ground and rolled, his front driver's side wheel came to rest leaning against my pelvis. Had he rolled 2 more inches, he would have crushed my pelvis. It goes even more is that inside of the restaurant that he was pulling out of was an EMT team, an emergency medical team, who saw the whole thing happen, ran out to take care of me, picked me up and carried me across the street to the hospital that I can see right there. So I wasn't meant to die that day. What happened was 4 months of physical therapy. This is sort of the culmination of my story. 4 months of physical therapy with absolutely zero benefits, still pain, still like restricted movement, and I was starting my mentality was starting to decay, right? Because I'd started to think I can't sit up because it hurts. I can't lay down because it hurts. I can't get in the bathtub because it hurts. I can't crawl anymore because it hurts. I can't feed myself because I can't find a comfortable place to sit. I can't push my own wheelchair. Like I thought my life was over. And the very last day, my physical therapist says, PJ, we've tried everything. I've consulted all of my books, all of my manuals, all of my teachers, all of my mentors. I've looked at magazine articles. He said, I talked to one last mentor a couple nights ago, and he thought maybe you had popped your hip bone out of place when you hit the ground, and that I should palpate your pubic bone and see. So he pushes through my pubic line, feels the pelvic bone, and he's like, oh, that's the problem. So he rolls me on my side and he says, this is going to hurt. And I said, that's okay. And this is what I want everybody to understand. He said, this is going to hurt. And I thought to myself, it can't possibly hurt worse than the past 4 months of degradation, right? Of feeling the physical pain, but also feeling like I was losing this life that I love so much. And he said, this is going to hurt. I said, let's do it, doc. And boom, he popped that hip back in place. Right? Waves of pain went through my system. And as soon as the waves of pain were gone, in a split second, I was overwhelmed with this sense of appreciation for the life that I had taken for granted before I got hit. And in that moment of being overwhelmed by that sense of appreciation, I realized that there's a distinct difference between appreciation and gratitude. Appreciation is what I enjoy and like or dislike. It's setting a value for something, right? It's appraising the value of something. Gratitude was the external expression of thanks. And the moment I started my external expression of thanks, it immediately flowed into love. And I had this flash, this remembrance of when I had that pillar of golden light come through the ceiling, fill me up and say, love. It wasn't saying, go out and love everyone, because I was already doing that. It was saying, learn to love yourself so you can teach other people to learn to love themselves. I would say those are some of the most poignant moments, and recently an experience with the divine too, if we want to get into that at some point.
You know, when you and I met first, I instantly felt your depth, and that was, like 4.5 years ago when you were invited to. I was invited to be a part of this amazing summit that you were putting together, and I knew you were incredible. You had an incredible depth, and what I love discovering is that you are such a mystic. You are such a mystic, and mystic, in my understanding, is the being who sees everything as sacred, sacred
Mhm.
pain,
Yeah,
sacred love.
yeah,
And it's also a traveler between dimensions, between lifetimes, between the realities, right? Translator of the divine. And
yeah.
what you shared is like, it's my favorite kind of story to hear, is when you had your mystical experience that forever altered you.
Yeah.
And each one is so unique. There is never the same mystical experience. Right?
I think I love that you're saying that. Sorry, I did. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I love that you're saying that you're referencing me as a mystic. I'm really honored by that because to me, that's the highest level, right? That's the direction we're going. The mystic is the one who has the intercourse with the divine. And I don't mean like necessarily sexuality, but in prayer, if you go really deep, like I was doing right before we got on our call, because I really wanted to connect, when you go into prayer and you realize that there's layers of prayer, right? There's most people are like, now I lay me down to sleep. Say the Lord, my soul to keep, right? And then you move on to more deeper prayers, like praying for other people. And then you move on to deeper prayer where there's not words. And then you move on to deeper prayer where it's not only there's no words, but as you're going up or out with your prayer, it's coming down or in to you simultaneously. And so there's this intercourse with the divine and it becomes ecstatic, right? We talk about the ecstatic prayer, the ecstatic dream, the ecstatic meditation, and it can be orgasmic, right? And it's to this place where you're just filled completely up and you lose yourself completely. That's mysticism, right? Because it's now you've lost yourself and you've lost yourself to what? The mystery, the uncontainable, the unknowable, the unnameable. You've lost yourself in the presence of the isness.
Mm.
I love it. This is delicious to me. This is what life is about, right? I'm absolutely, this is the direction I want to go. When I was a kid, I used to think that I wanted to be a monk, but I didn't care if it was a Catholic monk
I
or
thought it was going to be a nun.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't care if it was a Catholic or a Buddhist, right? But I wanted to be sequestered because I wanted that connection with the divine. I remember at 9 or 10 years old, I remember praying to God. This may be an answer to your first question. At 9 or 10 years old, I remember praying to God by myself, saying, recognizing at like 9 or 10 that so many people were suffering around the world, and I didn't know that before, right? And so when I realized that, I was brokenhearted. You know, my heart was just broken open to reference your language. And it really was. I remember crying and praying on my own. Nobody said go in your room and pray. Nobody said meditate. I don't even know if my mom knows that I did this, right? I sat on my bed and I cried and I prayed and I said, God, give me their pain. Give me their suffering. Give me their burdens. I'll take it. I'm almost in tears right now, remembering. This is probably the answer to your first question. And I said, I'll take it. I'll carry all of their suffering and pain. I don't want them to suffer. They don't need to suffer. And
Yeah.
give me one sec. And I remember being scared, right, and saying, I was embarrassed that I said this. It's embarrassing to repeat it. You know, if I put myself back on that little kid mentality, and I remember saying, I just want them to know that it was me. I don't need them to give me anything. I just want them to know that I took it, that somebody took it, so they're not looking for it. So they're not trying to find it again and pick it up again. Just so they know that it's gone, you know. And that's all that I wanted. I just wanted people to know that somebody took it from them so they didn't have it. You know, and I wasn't raised in the church. I wasn't raised in the mosque or the temple or the synagogue, you know, but I've always just been this spiritual little guy, you know.
Well, PJ, when you were sharing, I just had so many flashbacks of, lifetimes where you were a monk. And
Yeah.
because you have the consciousness, to have a consciousness that you came into this, when you were this 9-year-old kid, to have that consciousness, this desire for prayer. I had the same thing when I was a kid. Like my family is like as atheist, as not connected to spirit at all. And something in us knew how to connect to the divine. And that's the consciousness. That's the consciousness from, that's the evolution of your consciousness from your previous life. That, you know, it's you carry that on, and the next life, and the next life, right? You don't lose the evolution of consciousness. Yes, we forget the memories of who we are. We shed the personality, but that, you know, the essence of your soul, it continues on, which is like really profound to see the consciousness that you came in into the body already with.
And you said, did I hear you right when you said you did the same thing when you
Yeah,
were about the same age? Tell me
absolutely.
your story. I want to hear your story because
Yeah.
I don't know if your listeners know your story. I don't know this, and I want to know it. So we want to share it, right?
All right. Well, it started even earlier. It started around 5,
Okay.
when I had this obsession to figure out what happens after death. And I was like, two questions: why am I here? What's gonna happen after I die? And you know, none of the adults in my environment took my question seriously. I just went straight to source. And I remember it was the same thing, PG. I would put my little hands in the prayer posture. Where did I see it? There was nothing modeled. Not, it's like communist Russia, my family, you know, the way they pray, they drink, you know. And it's like there's no talk about spirit at all. Even like, even if you talk, you know, about religion, it's like yeah, it was just no talk. So it was a direct, I'm just gonna go. And I remember having these conversations with God.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, in the dark before I go to sleep. And I was like, please, God, if I die tomorrow, just take me with you. But please tell me what happens after death. And you know, and it was just so great, this search. Yeah, and it's I needed to have a connection with God. I needed to have a connection with spirit. It was a need, it was a biological need.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like I have nothing else to do here at night. It was this deep need to reconnect, to link back to that source consciousness.
Yeah.
And that is the only explanation that I have is, you know, reincarnation. This is the journey of the soul, right? That we come in and we preserve the level of consciousness that we've developed each lifetime.
You know, it's funny because at 5 years old, same. Um, a little bit before that, I was asking my mom, "What's the name of God?" Or what? No, I said, "Why does God have so many names?" My mom was like, "What do you mean? Why does God have so many names?" She's like, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying." You know, and I was like, "Well, he's called this, he's called this, he's called this." You know, and she's like, I don't know. But at 5 years old, same as you, I remember saying to my friends, my little 4-year-old friends, two of them, I said, "Do you see that tree? God's in that tree. Do you see that bush? God's in that tree. Do you see that grass? God's in that grass. And God's in you and God's in me. So that makes us brothers and sisters." When, where did this come from? You know? But you said
Play.
that you had that need. I don't know if I would ever call it a need, but it was always like a constant invitation to God, right? I don't know if there was a need for me as much as like a desperate want, you know, a desperation for that connection, a constant invitation, you know, like it was almost like God was always in me playing with me all the time.
I love that. I love that so much, PJ. Love that so much. Yeah, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to hear your mystical revelation experience, because once you're kissed
Mm,
by divinity,
yeah,
you'll never forget that kiss. You know, there is only this ongoing lovership
yeah,
with the divine, and life becomes an adventure, right? Like you rise and meet the challenges and the gifts and surprises, but it's all the part of adventure. And you know, I really see this new movement, PJ,
mhm,
this new movement that I call mystical leadership.
yeah,
And I also began to hear this other movement called love leadership, really as the field, you know, love as the field of transformation,
yeah,
as this profound alchemical power
yeah,
that, you know, we who carry that flame
mm,
and everybody else who is rising to join this movement, it is this is the only thing that really heals, that really unites us all, because we're on the same team called love leadership, love movement. We're on the same team, right? And I just, like, this has been a deeper message that has been um, emerging from my heart, is, it's all of these things that are necessary for leadership, right? And all of these skills and strategies and character qualities and ability to, inspire. But all of that depends on, are you able to cultivate the field of love, emanate, cultivate, expand it? Because that is who you are. That's what actually creates, this real coherence in the movement. So I began to share that, because a lot of times, sometimes, love, love, love. It's kind of like, almost like this, there's something to think that you can tap into on the spiritual retreat, or, on ayahuasca ceremony, taking some mushrooms on the weekend.
Right.
And I'm talking like the field of love you choose to attune and cultivate, and then you show up in your leadership as that field of love.
Yes.
I'm in that conversation, and I would love to invite you into that conversation with me. How do
Yes.
you experience this in your
Well,
journey?
I reference it as the 3 L's. Okay. Listen, love, lead. And here's why. Because listening isn't just with our ears, right? We listen with our eyes by observing. We listen with our heart by feeling, right? When we're in meditation, meditation in essence is a form of listening. When we lose ourselves, when we let go, I could add a 4th L in there, right? Which is let go, listen, love, and then lead, because everything starts with letting go. Everything. The more you let go, the more you embrace. Let me rephrase it. The more you let go, the more you receive, the more you're filled up, right? And so you don't even have to ever think about forgiving, because as soon as you let go, judgment is released. When judgment is released, there's nothing to forgive, because everything is washed away like sand in a stream or a pond, a stream, right? It's gone. So we don't even have to worry about it. So we could add a 4th L, but I talk about listening because when you are in that field that you're talking about, there's a feeling that you receive, and you're aware of that sensation. And when you care enough about yourself to explore that, or you care enough, and or you care enough about your employees or your clients or the people that are following you, when you care enough, you love them, then you take the wisdom from that field that you're listening, and you share that love with them, right? And as you share that love with them, they feel that. And what do? They let go, they trust, they open up. Well, they let go, they open up, they trust, right? And as they do, now they say, well, I don't know how. And you say, let me lead you. It's just that graceful, right? It's just that graceful. And I probably will add the 4th L, just because it feels like it's more complete, but it's almost unnecessary to say, because the only way you're really going to listen and hear is to truly let go, right? That's the only way you really hear.
The only way you really hear is by letting go. Drinking this in. So, so profound.
And there's really only 2 parts of a leader: the ability to see vision, right? And act on that.
Mm.
And the ability to receive, how do I say it? Give me a sec, because I want to reconnect with it. There's only 2 functions of a leader. The function number 1 is you have to see the vision. You have to have a vision, and then you have to be able to convey. That was the word I couldn't remember. Convey and inspire the followers to also see the vision and be as equally as excited about it and move with it. We could add in there there's the assessment, but if I shift just a little, if I see the vision over here, then I just naturally shift, right? So I just have to be able to see the vision, right? So there's only 2 functions of a leader. And how do you connect? You don't connect with your head. This is one of the cool things, right, about the love leadership is people think about, oh, well, as a leader, I have to come from my brain, right? And I'm going to think about things, and this is how I talk, right? And you can feel maybe this sort of less connection. You can hear some of the words. Maybe they're great. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're articulate. Maybe you're like, what did you just say? But whatever, it's still coming from my head. But when I shift because I want to connect, all of a sudden I come from my heart. You can hear that I speak differently. You can feel the connection. Why is that? Because we don't connect in the brain. We're enticed and excited and interested by what somebody says intellectually, but we connect with the soul, connect with the heart, we connect with the love, right? Love is the flow, it's the fabric, it's the spirit, espiritu, right? It's the spirit that connects things, that makes the web of life.
Say more on how you love I just love that. More, PJ, more. I'm like your biggest fan in the audience. More.
So, first, if I'm going to say more on how I love, the first thing to say is that I'd like to define love. For me, love is the willing exchange of oneself for oneness. Love is the willing exchange of oneself for oneness, meaning that when you actually love someone, anything, right? When you actually love, what happens is the consciousness and the awareness of yourself starts to, like, let's say I'm filled with water, right? Just to look at a volume measure. Um, as you start to love somebody else, the awareness you have for yourself is like up here at the top of my head, and it starts to drain down, and it drains down. The more I connect with them, the more that I pour love into them, the more this awareness of self, me, right, goes away, and there's only the awareness and connection with them. And it's a willing exchange. It's something I willingly let go of because I want to exchange the awareness of my own physical body, my own intellect, my own mind, my own senses, my own hungers, my own needs, my own wants. I let that go because real love is about pouring into another person, pouring into an animal, pouring into a plant, a tree, a blade of grass. The mountain is God, right? And when you pour into fully and completely, you change your consciousness from self to oneness. And you don't consciously go, well, I'm going to become one with everything. No, you just like literally pour into the other. And the only awareness is the presence that you have with that other being. And it's the awareness of the presence. And so I like to say, um, well, the rest of the world talks about it. It's so important to be present. Um, I think being present is limiting. It's limited by your five senses. So I like to say, instead of being present, it's great to be present, but being in the present is limiting. Being in the present moment is limiting. Being in the presence with a capital P is liberating. And so, how do I love? First of all, the very first thing I do, my five. I'm gonna tell you my. It's way too many. Originally, it was four, right? But here's my seven subtle steps to love. Okay.
Well, it sounds
Okay.
like a book or something.
It's ridiculous. It's
Subtle steps to love. This is so cool.
you know the you know how in Buddhism, in Zen Buddhism, it's all about like um, austerity, and they don't say much, and they sort of just point you in the direction. You have to sort of go in that direction and figure it out, right? But in Tibetan Buddhism, man, those dudes and ladies, they like break everything down to the most minuscule levels. And so I'm like, maybe I'm a Tibetan Buddhist. I don't know. Right? Because I have a knack for making this simple complicated. Originally, it was four simple steps. Now it's seven. And so I just recently added the word subtle because I was like, if I say that it's seven subtle steps, but it's because the shifts are subtle, right? Because really all you need to do, there's only one step to love, letting go. Because when you let go, what's left? The only thing that's left is love. When you let go, I mean, literally, Muji, one of my, I would say, spiritual teachers, although I'm still struggling with a little bit with Muji right now. It's a whole nother conversation, not really for now. Um, when Muji was asked, Muji, is God love? Muji said, where I've been, there is nothing. Love is the fragrance that emanates from the divine.
Mm.
Mm. That is juicy and delicious. Listen to that again. Love is the fragrance that emanates from the divine. Ugh, this mouth makes me gooey, right? It's
I got
what?
chills again.
Yes, that's delicious. So let me go back to this, right? What is that? What is that? Letting go. When you let go of sadness and frustration and fears and judgment and self-judgment and disappointment and confusion and wants and needs. What's left? The field that you spoke about, right? Just the field of energy, the radiance, the emanation from the divine is left, right? That is what's left because that is the foundation of the fabric of the universe, that level of love. So if I give you my 7 subtle steps, okay, woo, people are like, finally, we're getting to them. Um, number one is let go.
Let go.
Really, there is no other, right? But letting go is number one. So the more you can let go, the more you will receive. The more you let go, the more you will feel love. And so the second step is become, after you start to let go, the natural, this is the reason why it's subtle, because everything is just a subtle variation or shift from the original. So letting go leads into the second step, which is becoming open and receptive. So as
Mm.
soon as I let go, I start to become open. Think about I'm holding on to something. And as soon as I start to let go of it, my hand starts to open and be receptive to receive. Now, what do you receive? Stage 3, simple awareness.
Mm.
Because if I'm wrapped up in some kind of distraction in my head, I don't see anything else around me, right? If I'm focused on one thing right here, I don't hear anything or see anything else around me, right? So the moment I let go and I open up and start to receive, what do I receive? Awareness. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, look at that. And then the subtle step after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, number 4, right, is appreciation. Now, appreciation is, if you look at the word appreciate, the original root of the word, the etymology of the word, comes from a word that means to appraise. And
Mm.
what is appraising something? To set a value for something. The value is, do I like this or do I not like this? Do I want more of this or do I want less of this? Right? So once we become aware of things, we start to go, oh, I like this or I don't like this. I want more, so I'm going to follow that. Right? That level of bliss. Follow your bliss, right? You're like, oh, that's delicious. I'm going to go that direction. And when we follow that bliss, we expand. I'm getting tingles on my spine. Um, so we expand, right? And we expand and we evolve, and that's what life is all about. But if we don't, and we go down the path of obligation and expectation and making ourselves small and playing small and not honoring ourselves, that's evolution too. But it's evolution smaller, 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 weaker, weaker, weaker. But it's still an exploration of the all. It's still an exploration of the everything, because everything is you know, everything is worth exploring, right? It's just not, it doesn't feel as good. Okay. So step number 5, after you're like, oh, that feels good. I like that, that appreciation. When you feel so much appreciation, right? And you fill up with appreciation, you spill out. And spilling out is gratitude. Gratitude is the external expression of love. This is number 5. This is the subtle step number 5. And it's literally gratitude. Like, you can be thankful to the tree. You can be thankful to the wind. You can be thankful to God. You can be thankful to your partner, right? It doesn't matter. It's just gratitude is this external expression. You can be thankful to yourself, right? And that's still gratitude, because I will talk to myself in the mirror. I call it namaste talks, because it's just God talking to God, right? And so as I talk to myself, I will thank myself, and I'll stay in that space of gratitude. Thank you for showing up for me, right? Thank you for getting us to this point. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for letting me love you. These are things I say to myself, right? And I remember when I was in high school, somebody said, man, all you got to do is learn to love yourself. I don't think they said it like that, but in my crazy mind, they did, right? You just got to learn to love yourself. And I was like, love yourself? Like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make sense. How do you love yourself? Because I didn't understand the depths of love. And so the 5th subtle step is gratitude. Now, here's where it gets sneaky. When you become so filled with gratitude and it's spilling out, there's a secret little door, a little secret kind of humility, a secret type of humility that is a little tiny secret door that, as soon as you are so filled with this level of gratitude, it's almost like, when when a cup fills all the way up and then it starts to spill out and goes down, the moment that it starts to cascade over the edge of the glass is the moment you start, because think about going down as becoming humble, right? As soon as it starts to go down, there's a sense of humility in you. Not I'm less than, not I'm not good enough, but this just sense of, um, it's sort of a sense of letting go again, because you shift into this humility and you let go even more. And the moment you let go even more, the door opens up and you're into love. And and then it just cycles again, right? It cycles, you feel that love, you fill up with the love. And then the more you fill up with love, the more you can let go. The more you can let go, the more you can become open. The more open you become, the more receptive you become, the more aware you become, the more you can appreciate, set a value for things. I like that. I don't like that. I'm going to go after that. I'm going to leave that alone. The more you follow what you want, the more filled with gratitude you have. The more humble you become, the more you love. It's very simple. There's subtle steps, but it all starts with one thing: letting go. Just let go.
Wow. I feel the fragments of the frequency of this conversation. And this is what, PG, this was my dream podcast. I wanted, really, I wanted to have like, my true soul family beings. And I'm like, I want to have this real conversation and for us to catch up, for us to dive into these deep topics and then share this incredibly organic wisdom that comes through the field that we hold, through the field of love,
Yes.
for the benefit of our communities and for, and what I love about podcasts, it's kind of like, it's like a message in the bottle. It will continue to be discovered and discovered and discovered. And I just love this. I love what we can create with technology. I'm a huge technology fan.
Me
you
too.
know right, it's just like the advancement, and
Fascinating.
it's just so profound. And the other question that I really desire to hear from you, to ask you, what is the new layers of the message that you're here to share,
Mm.
that you are tapping into lately? Like, what is because I am continue to go through rebirth of my voice.
Yeah, always.
Such an organic process, right? So
Absolutely.
what is that message? What is that voice that is moving through you right now?
Well, interesting enough, you have two circles behind you over your right shoulder, right? And as you were saying that, you're like, I continue to go through, and in my mind went like that. It made a circle, right? Of course, you just cycle, you just cycle, you just cycle. There's form, we start in formlessness and we become form, and then we become formless again, and then we become form. There's thought, and then there's like manifestation, so there's non-tangible and then there's tangible, and then there's learning, and then there's relearning, so if I answer your question about where am I, what are the things that I'm experiencing now, there are three things really that I would talk about. Um, the first is there's only two things that you really need to focus on. You don't have to focus on these, but there's only two things that are really necessary for you to expand in the way you want to expand. And the first is letting go. I know I've said this over and over and over, but again, the more you let go, the more you can be open. The more open you are, the more you can receive, the more intimately connected with the divine and presence you are, right? And so you become full and rich with the divine. And the other is becoming empowered, because we have to be really careful about just going all blissed out in meditation. There's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite jokes is, this guy walks by this person sitting on a bridge meditating every day. And it happens, one day, 2 days, all week long, all month long, 3, 4, 5 months in. He finally walks up to this guy and he goes, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I see you meditating here every day. I know that I'm interrupting you. Please forgive me. He's like, But all you do is sit here, man. Like there's a whole life out there. Why are you like, why are you out there living and doing something with your life? And the guy sort of opens his eyes and he goes, I thought I'd sit this one out.
That is a great joke.
Right.
I love it.
That's the process of meditation and letting go, right? We can get to that state where we're just blissed out and we don't need to do anything. So the second piece of that is become empowered, right? And becoming empowered is honestly looking inside and hearing the cries of your soul. If you're experiencing depression, you don't have a biochemical problem most of the time. Although we could argue, yes, biochemically that's causing depression. I get that. You have a soul that's crying out saying, I want to be doing something else with my life. Can't we get in motion doing something? This is the need and the value of becoming empowered, right? Because when you become empowered, the letting go is the feminine, and the becoming empowered. And this, I mean, we could talk about this because there's feminine empowerment too, but just humor me and understand for the sake of conversation. In essence, becoming empowered is that masculine going out, because the letting go is becoming open and receptive, like the feminine sex organs, right? And the becoming empowered is projecting out and saying, that's what I see, that's what I want, that's what I'm going for. So it's the projection out, very much like the male sex organ, right? And so you can't have one without the other. And so when you do this, you open up and let go of any distractions, realizing your innate power, and you say, that's what I want. You move in that direction, and then boom, you open up again to receive. And then you say, that's what I want, and you open up again to receive. So it's the constant process of giving and receiving, giving and receiving. You're playing both the masculine and the feminine because they're complements of each other inside of yourself. There's this divine intercourse with the divine, but also with the divine within you. And so I would say these are the two pieces that are really, really crucial that I'm exploring and studying even more right now. And then the third piece, really quickly, is related to a spiritual experience I had about 10 days ago, where I thought I understood the unnameable, right? What we might call a God. I thought that I understood the unknowable. I was like, oh, I know that you can't know it, but I know it, but I didn't know it. I had this flash of insight where it was, there aren't words that I'm ever going to be able to use to explain it, that I now call it the uncontainable. And it was almost like the fabric of space-time was pierced, and I was able to just peek in the window to see that which I now reference as the uncontainable, the divine, in Jewish mysticism. So stay with me for 1 second, because I am going to get to my third piece. In Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, they talk about how God was everything. And then just at the moment of creation, God retracted from itself and created a womb inside the middle of itself, right? And so it was almost as if that which we call the universe had a hole poked in it briefly from God's side, and because it was poked from God's side, it was as if God gave me a chance to see that is the uncontainable, that I got to see on the other side. But he didn't really see anything, but I saw everything. I mean, there's no way to explain it. And so what I learned from that was, I used to say that God animates everything. God animates the trees and the planets and the stars and all of that. But now what I realize is what I refer to as the uncontainable God. The uncontainable just allows everything in the universe to be animate. And so I would say these are the three things that I'm learning right now. Letting go more and more and more, deeper and deeper and deeper, right? Becoming even more empowered and more confident, and realizing that God allows everything to be animate, which means that it translates as God truly allows freedom of choice and witness and experience. And in that, there was this experience that I had just 2 days ago where I said, I realized that even the mere thought, just the very moment that God has a thought, it begins to manifest, right? Or it can manifest, I would assume. And so if just the thought creates manifestation, and if I am God, meaning all of me is God, because there's nothing in the universe that is not God, right? I may not be all of God, but all of me is God. If that's the case, if God can think something and manifest something, I was like, well, I'm gonna do it too. But the thing is that it's not about like efforting, like so many people do when they attempt to manifest. It's about, oh, this is what I want. And I know very lightly, very simply, very easily, I know that it's going to happen. So I immediately go from that's what I want back to being open and receptive, right? I just make that loop immediately. So I said, okay, I want $1 million. And I got 2 clients that afternoon that I didn't even try for. Like they reached out to me and they're like, can we be your clients? I was like, okay, like I didn't have to do anything. It was just that simple. And so I'm going to be playing with that now for a little while. And I've known that, but there's a different understanding now that I have this understanding that God allows everything to be animate,
Mhm.
because now there feels like there's a different kind of freedom for me
Yeah.
and for
Yeah.
everyone, really. Yeah.
It's so brilliant. Oh, PJ, well, that's that's the memories of our true abilities. When I think about ancient Atlantis and Lemuria, where we we were so in awareness of our abilities as a co-creators with the divine, and just exactly what you said, it's just so profound, like such a metaphysical teaching that you gave in a very practical way, right? And it's creating through being, it's creating through being the love that you are. And it's it's such an efficient way to enroll clients. You simply how receive. It's very efficient. I love it, Fiji. I love it. I'm there with you. The speed of manifestation, especially this year, has been so inspiring for me. And the speed of lessons and the speed of manifestation has been really profound. And I'm like, I really love this rhythm universe. It does require you to become very clear on your thoughts, on your focus, on your energy. There is no sloppiness that can be allowed, right? There's this pristine energetic awareness, but also playful and fluid.
Yes.
Love that you brought letting go is one of the key principles. I think I'm going to title this episode Letting Go, Love, and Leadership.
I love it.
Right?
I
Yeah. So
so
we have like literally 1 minute
okay.
left. You and I could just talk here for 2 hours, and I just love it. But I wanted to say, your website is amazing. Is it pjwisdom.com?
PJswisdom.com,
pjwisdom.com.
PJswisdom.com.
Yeah, I was totally enchanted by your website when I was cyber stalking you.
Oh, good.
I was like, this website looks amazing. So please do check out his website, pjswisdom.com. And then PJ just rocks wisdom bites on his personal Facebook profile, PJ Dixon. His name will be in show notes in every post that I will share this podcast. And yeah, he's very generous with the wisdom bites. He's an incredible mentor, incredible coach, a world class speaker. I recommend everybody to hire PJ as a speaker for your
Thank you.
team building.
Yes.
Yeah, for your team building, for your clients, for your masterminds. My mastermind, our galactic socks were blown off, and my mastermind members were like, we went and watched this again, and they watched the training again, and PJ did this fantastic training on confidence and resilience, and you just brought it. And I just say it how it is. You're a truly incredible, masterful being who walks life with devotion, zest, and humility. And I just love you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm incredibly grateful and honored by you. And the moment you breathed in my presence, you breathed life into me.
Mhm.
And I'm incredibly grateful. Um, You are clearly sacred. You are a blessing to this world. And I'm grateful to have you in my life.
Mm, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, PG. On this note, let us know, dear listeners and viewers, because our YouTube community will be here, Facebook, Instagram, baby, LinkedIn also. We're going to be on all those beautiful virtual stages, bringing you ignition for the soul. Let us know what you loved, what you're going to let go, how you're going to lead in a new way, and how you're going to implement at least one nugget you received from here. Thank you for joining us. We love you.
We do love you.